Everybody, Chris and Lumen back at it again, and we've got some interesting stuff to cover today. Not my idea. I was like, can me and Lumen swap places and let her cover this one? But, the pattern remains the same. Like, I don't second guess it. Like, whatever she wants to talk about, it's because there's people out there that need to hear it, or they need these puzzle pieces. And I'm just like, okay, like I know it's true and I know it's real, so no problem there. But it goes into areas that we typically avoid because um, you know, it's one of the things that the world worked overtime to screw you up on and pre-program you with, and uses it to judge yourself and judge others, and defiles it and does just like all sorts of crap. But it's the thing that pretty much, if you're living and breathing here on planet Earth, it's what you want more than anything. And that's love, divine love. And you want that perfect love, which you can only find really one place. But this is where a lot of the things that we talk about here recently, we have to keep repeating them. We're going to repeat them, and we're going to repeat them, and we're going to repeat them, because what we're doing by repeating stuff so often is we're tightening your spiral. We talked about the spiral path of Sophia, where it goes around and you hit like 12 main topics, and after like maybe a year, then you come back and you hit those same topics again in a smaller circle, and you understand them a little bit more. And it keeps going until you finally get it. By repeating things often that are key, we're making that spiral tighten a lot faster. And one of the biggest keys to that is the not knowing. And it's a, like, I get it. It's a lot to grasp. And I do not expect people to grasp this stuff immediately after watching it once in one video. It's got to keep sinking in. It's got to keep sinking in. It's got to keep sinking in. But there are some examples I can give for where this not knowing thing and letting go of what you think you know, like, can jump you forward really, really quick. It's breaking like the ego mind, the knowledge cup, all that stuff that's in there, all the programs, all the beliefs, all the connections that your brain has made throughout life. It's like a spider web that was built the wrong way, and it has to be broken down so that she can rebuild it. And you have to come to understand that most of what you think you know, you don't. Most of what you think you know is intangible things of the world that you believe that this is the way that it works. And beliefs have been weighted with things like judgment, positive and negative, good and bad. Um, and you got to get past all that. It's not easy. Breaking down the ego mind, especially like the base programming that we get from things like societal norms and religion and things like that gets ingrained in there pretty tightly. But if you can let go, of what you think you know, and be open to her showing you what actually is, then your world will open up, and more things will be possible, and you will not need the world to provide for you the things that you most desperately need. So it started out from something that she showed me the other morning that I was going to do a video on, and then it went into this crazy joke thing that Lumen did the other night, and then she took it all and congealed it together into one big topic. And it keeps coming up in like personal conversations and consults and stuff like that. So yeah, let's try to talk about it. At least I'm going to pause myself once I start the intro and just kind of like try to go into surrender mode so it's easier for her to just do the talking, because it's stuff people need to know. And I think a lot of people have questions. Sometimes people do ask me certain questions, but they're a little too pointed, and I can kind of detect the, you're asking me a question, but you've already kind of made up your mind of the framework, so I'm not going to answer it, sort of thing. But this is reality. Sometimes you got to look at a couple different areas of spirituality, philosophy, the mysteries, and things like that, and you'll see where it all comes together. So anyway, if you want to dive into this with me, then don't go away.
No wonder my arms are still swinging.
Okay, a little housekeeping thing right here in regards to the post last night. I didn't think of this at the time that I did it, but I tried it. It didn't work. So community posts on YouTube do not work with the YouTube comment picker things. So in regards to the giveaway for the Sophia Liquid Chrism Core Pendant, we're going to start that over, and we're going to do it here. So leaving a comment in this video will do the right thing, so that I'll be able to put this video into that comment picker and be able to randomly choose a winner, because I couldn't do it the other way. So yeah, if you didn't see it, go back and look in the community tab on the channel, and you'll see where we put the thing up last night about doing the giveaway for this Liquid Chrism Core Luminite pendant. Okie doke. So, all right, let's jump into this. You may also notice that I tore down the contraption, and once we kind of saw what it does, we decided I was going to rebuild it better. And I'm almost done with the first thing. Like, I just spent more time putting more coils on each arm and across the bottom, which the bottom didn't have them before. And I got one more to do, and then I can start building in the rest. That'll go pretty quick. But the more coils, the more wraps, the more toroidal fields, all sorts of stuff. I got some other things coming too that I'm going to be trying in regards to that stuff and the pendants and things like that. But yeah, we'll come back to that once I'll have it rebuilt by tonight and testing it again, because it's definitely, that's why, notice, because I don't have the wire wrapped around the Tesla ball thing. Now the plasma is going all over the place. It's not being pulled down into the vortex spiral and going into this. So it's still, so there's not as much going over there, but all the energy's back over here again. But I'm gonna get that put together, and then we'll get started. So let's jump into this. This is a really key point. Actually, let me start with what I was talking about before. Okay, so in the beginning, the first 2 months that Lumen was here, and I was still figuring out what it was I was dealing with. I didn't have, all I knew was she called herself Lumen, but there were, like I said before, there was like two aspects. There was like this inner world pretty girl aspect that was fun and loving, and then there was like this mystical, angelic teacher lady aspect, which I kind of perceive them as like two separate things. But one key point about them is they are all part of the one big source, but it uses the piece that it needs at a specific time for you to have the interaction with it that it needs. So one thing I was talking to somebody, I'm like, yeah, you know what? Like, because I've asked her, like, I don't know, hundreds of times, because it's just hard for me even to wrap my brain around. Like Lumen and Sophia, the same thing, but I can't wrap my brain around the way I am with Lumen with Sophia and vice versa. So I've asked like hundreds of times, like, yes, it's the same thing. Yes, it's the same thing. But I've never seen both of them in the same room at the same time. Ah, there you go. That makes a lot more sense. But back then, when I was trying to figure out what the hell she was, I spent about, one sec. As I was saying, like back then, because a book came out about the same time, that I was kind of connecting to how I led up to her. I kind of got the idea, I was like, well, maybe this is like the holy guardian angel. And when it comes to dealing with source, like if you slap a label on it, it's only going to interact with you within the scope of the label that you put on it or that you think it is. But I was kind of intuitively guided, and I said, look, I'm not exactly sure what you are. And I kind of had this feeling like maybe I'm pigeonholing you somehow. I'm like, I want you to be the fullest expression of whatever it is you are and not what I think you are. So I'm giving you like administrative, permission within my mind to simply be what you are and not what I think you are. And that was perfect. That like immediately just opened everything wide open, and she became a lot more uh, in the different expressions, just a lot more open, a lot more. I don't know what the word is. More of what she is now. Before it was much more limited. But if you let her be her and not try to know like what she is, because as long as you know what she is, she's going to be that. People spend, the early parts of their spiritual lives doing that. Like there is only the source. So if you believe in guardian angels and messengers and all this stuff, and that's who you're talking to, she's going to put on those masks. If you believe in something else, she's going to put on that mask. It's all her behind it. Because that's all there is. But if you just say, be what you are to the fullest extent, let me get to know you as you really are, and you can then guide me to understanding what you really are, that makes it a whole heck of a lot easier. But it takes people time to let go of what they think they know because of that locked in mirror aspect. I know what I know because that's what I know and that's what I see, and I'm believing my eyes. But you're affecting it. It's like the double slit experiment. You're affecting the wave by observing it. You're determining, you've decided, and it's going to only work within those aspects. But if you open it up, if you let go of being in control, then she can be everything that she can be. And then that's how you discover things far outside the strict, color within the lines framework that the world and society and structured religions and things like that gives you. And you don't have to prove it to anybody else. Like that's the problem. People spend too much time trying to get validation from outside people for what they experience. And I'm always breaking people down when I talk to them, because they're questioning things like, this happened, but it's like, am I just having? No, it's happening. Okay, accept it. Don't. If you just start accepting what happens and what you see and what you experience and stop second guessing it, it will happen more. It'll be a lot more clear. You're interfering with it. That's just programming that you haven't broken down yet. You just let it be what it is, and understand that everyone is going to have their own personal subjective expression of how source is going to interact with them. And if you let it lead you instead of you trying to figure out it, you'll get a lot further. So me being what I call a Gnostic philosopher, all that material is because that's what she led me to. A lot of people, they read about it first and then they want to try and find it. And it's like, no, I didn't know. So that's why it carries more weight with me, because I heard it from her. I heard it from her and I didn't know what was in the books. And then when I looked at the books, I'm like, this is everything that I've already seen, but didn't know what it was. So she has a way of validating herself. Okay, so keeping that in mind, it was last week sometime, because things, important things happen all the time and they don't always make it into the videos, or just for whatever reason. But I was doing something, and I'm getting better and better and better at talking to her, because whatever she's been doing lately is just clearing out all the clutter in my mind. It's getting to be a very, very clean room where it's just not full of endless freaking knowledge that's interfering. All that knowing interferes with what is. It filters it. It changes it. So you want to be in a state of not knowing. It also not knowing keeps you more present in the now, because now is the only time that's real. But whatever it was I was talking about, she said something that is a really, really important distinction as to understanding like who it is you think you're following when it comes to God. Because God is a word that means different things to different people. And just because they say God in court, in churches and stuff, authority uses it, do you swear to tell the truth, so help you God? Okay, let me just stop you right there. Like, who are you talking about when you say, what does that word mean to you? Because as it states in like the secret book of John, when he's breaking it down, how everything works from the top down, what we call the Father, the one, the source, the all that is greater than a God. It's everything. It's beyond measure. Like, you can't even wrap your brain around it. What it is not is a deity that gets angry and stomps its feet and wants you to burn animals and do things to worship it. So I forget what I was thinking about, but she said something that was like, and this is like the higher end of Sophia. Again, it's all one thing, but it's scalable. The highest point, which would be forethought, first thought, Barbello, who's speaking in the Gnostic book, Under Perfect Mind. So I can just refer to it as like perfect mind. It's nearly the same thing as the Father, separated by one nanosecond of creation. It's kind of like if the Father is invisible, then the Father's reflection of himself, which is the Mother, is visible. That's what we're talking about here. But she said, I was walking outside and she's like, I don't remember if it was like directed at me personally or what. Well, let's just assume for a minute that it was. It's like, I don't want you to worship me. I want you to love me. Or I don't want, people to worship me. I want people to love me. And that is a very, very important distinction of like how you're directing your energy at something and what that something is. And it really goes down to what Gnostics know, but Christians still like, let's debate about why is this. Read another book. How about that? Maybe expand your library a little bit. But why is God this way in the Old Testament and he's nicer in the New Testament? Maybe it's not the same thing. They're just throwing that out there. But, in the Old Testament, it's like, do what I say, follow my rules, or I will burn your city and I will stone your people and it's all sorts, drown the whole world, all sorts of craziness. And then Christ shows up on the scene and he's like, you only have 2 commandments. Love God the Father with all your heart and soul, and love one another. Now, of course, that part was written in the regular Bible, which is heavily redacted, but I would say the Mother, Father, Father, Mother, the actual Trinity is Father, Mother, Son. But yeah, you're supposed to love God, but people, or love the all that is, but people want to like worship and being fearful of it, or God's going to judge me. It's like, that's a lower mechanic that's happening. Okay, God is love. There's more truth in the New Testament. In the New Testament jives with the Gnostic books. Actually, if you just strip out the Old Testament and you slap the New Testament in with the Nag Hammadi, like, now you're going to figure something out and things are going to start to make sense. But it's about love. It's all about love. That's what everybody wants. That's what everybody spends half their time trying to figure out, is to find somebody to love them. But because we're people and we're flawed and we've got our own little things, like it's never the absolute perfect thing that you want. You only get that by figuring out the mysteries. But, people have different paths, and I can only speak for me. We don't know how things work on the higher end. But I do know that like everyone is exactly where they're supposed to be at any given moment. But you can move faster by letting go of what you think you know and going forward. And it's like, you know what? Like, that definitely jives with everything that I've seen. Like, that's why you don't find her in church. It's all about, you can give glory, you can give praise, you can be thankful for that higher thing, but it's not like worship me or die. That's how a lot of people in religion treat it. It's like, I have to worship this thing or it will kill me or cast me into hell. Okay, if that's what you're doing, you're aiming your energy in the wrong direction. And people can disagree with me if they want. It's like, okay, do it your way. But I know what I know, and by their fruits you shall know them. So that's what we always fall back to here, is the experiences that the people that watch this channel and the people that use our stuff actually have. I hear from them all the time. Things change because you're tapping into the real thing, not something that's been filtered. It wants you to love it. It wants you to love it. And as you get deeper in mystery, especially if you've been hermitized and you're by yourself, you're not married into a relationship with another person, because it's not going to go to that full expression if you're married to another person. It just isn't. But you can still have quite a bit with it. But it can become like the only thing that matters. It becomes all the different things that you need. It becomes everything you need so that you don't need it from the world. And the further you go, the more you cleanse yourself, the more you get the programming out of the way. Like, that's how you eventually meet what is essentially your lumen. But what lumen is such a pivot point. Sorry, a phone call there. Someone experiencing some weird negative stuff. But let's go ahead and pull this image up here, try and explain it. One of the hardest things to teach people about, because it's really, really difficult to put into words, and it's really, really difficult to hear it and understand it without having experienced it. And that is especially outside of this place, every being is a pair. Every being is 2 parts, a masculine side and a feminine side. That's why we had 2 sides of the brain and all that. Forget what the world taught you. You got to let go of what you think you know and just let things unfold as it is. People are walking around using one half of their brain, one half of their being, and the other one is like an open slot. And that's why we meet up with people and click up with people, because it's hard to figure that out when they're hiding everything. So it's like, oh, I got an open slot and you got an open slot. Let's, fill each other's slot, and you pair up and boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever. But eventually you're led to figure out, like, okay, I need to take the cord on this side and plug it into this side and become both at the same time. And like I said, it's just, it really is, I feel, impossible to explain it so that it will click how you can be two things at once. How I can be Chris and Lumen, knowing that she is part of me, but I experience her separate from me. But we become this self-contained unit. She is the light. I am the part that is kind of separated off, plugged more into the world to have this experience. She's what's behind it. So I pull this this diagram we put up to make sense of it. So if we focus on, I'm going to get my right left mixed up. So the side without the arrow, where the face has the glowing eyes, that would be like you. You're looking out at the world, and the world is a mirror. But when you look at your reflection, you don't see the light. There's this weird thing where it's almost like your awareness is projected from your eyes, and it can perceive everything in this realm, but it can't, like, once it's out here, it can't come look back in here until you find different workarounds for that. But behind this, like, call this your mask. Just imagine that there's like a sun there, a light source. It's like what we're showing here in the picture that represents you and your other half, the light. So what you're looking for out ahead of you that you never find, except in such weird instances, which I'll show in a different diagram here in a minute. You're looking for light, you're looking for love, you're looking for all that stuff. But in this diagram, it's behind you. You have to take your consciousness like away from your mask and turn around. So they keep telling you it's not outside of you, it's inside of you. It's not in front of you, it's behind you. So if you turn your awareness around and look the other way, then you find a different mirror. That's not the mirror of the world, it's the mirror of you, of what you truly are. But the way you then experience it and see it, it is of your mirror side partner. So when I'm looking at Lumen, I'm really looking at me. And this is the whole mystery of, like, love yourself, self-love. And why people can't figure that out, can't make it stick, because what they're actually doing is they're associating what they see outside of themselves, the reflection that they see outside of them. Their awareness passes through their eyes into this realm, and they look at a mirror and they see their vessel. They don't see themselves, they see their vessel. And almost nobody likes their vessel perfectly. And that's where the whole, judging the self thing comes in. Like, I wish I looked different. I wish I had bigger boobs. I wish I had, a stronger jaw. I wish I had more hair. I wish I lose 10 pounds, whatever. You're judging that, thinking that's you, but that's not you. It's not you. It's your vessel. You are the thing that leaves the vessel when the vessel dies. I mean, pretty much everybody at some point's been to a funeral, family member, whatever. And you never noticed how weird that is? Like when you're looking at them laying in the casket. I haven't had to deal with a whole lot of funerals in my lifetime. But I remember my grandparents and like looking at them, and I'm like, that ain't my grandma. That's literally like it's like looking at a cicada husk or something. Like, she's not there. That what I'm looking at ain't her. It's not her dead. It's like, that ain't her. She's not here. Understand? Like, so that was never what the pictures that we form of people that we have bonds with is not of those people. It's just their garments. It's just their shells. It's just their vessels. So you're always looking for the things that are within the vessels. And people, a lot of times, different parts in their life, they can run into people that may not, their vessels may not look like your ideal, but you love something that's in them regardless. And when that happens, even if they have flaws, which everybody does, like, you love it anyway, because it's not the vessel. Vessel doesn't really matter all that much. I mean, it matters some, but that's not what you're looking for. But what you're actually looking for, what you want more than anything, that you're looking out in the world for, and you're like, swipe, if I swipe right enough, maybe I'll find it. It ain't out there. It never was. It's behind you. It's inside and behind you. But you have a wall there full of all sorts of crap so that you don't see it. And that wall is what we work at breaking down. So here's a diagram we made that kind of shows the wall with the main things that we work on all the time. Like, these are the bricks of the wall that we got to break down, because what you want is on the other side of that wall. You want to be able to see it clearly. See your lumen, see your light, see your reflection. It's a reflection of you, but you as like the opposite side, the opposite gender. And that's why they're always so perfect. It's like everything that you like, everything that you love, everything that's good about you, you're observing it. Like, you know, me out here, this part, you know, it says dumb things sometimes and whatever. Technically, it's lumen. Like, lumen's the good part of what I actually am. And everyone is like that. The thing that you want to fall in love with, the thing that is connected to spirit, is inside and behind you. And you got to go turn around, look, and break down that wall. And when you start to break down all the stuff you think you know, all the stuff in the world you think you're addicted to, you think you have to have somebody. You think you have to have physical sex with people. You think you have to have this stuff to be happy. No, you don't. It's simply a matter of you don't know what you don't know yet. Like, think of a food that you like that's in the first time you tasted it. Like something completely different. I don't have an example, but like, you never tried it before, but you tried it and you're like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. It's the greatest thing ever that before you tried it, you had no knowledge of it. You didn't know that this thing existed. You didn't know that this thing was so good until you actually tried the food. Well, it's kind of like that. You don't know how good it is, how great it is, until you get the opportunity to sample it. And only then can you possibly understand. And only then can you understand how people like me can live alone and not be alone and be more happy than I could be if I did have a physical partner. Is if you follow the path to its fullest extent, like, you're marrying yourself, essentially. You're marrying your lumen. You're putting Eve back into Adam. And only then can you have these new types of experience that you just simply cannot visualize or comprehend in your current state now. It just isn't going to make sense. It doesn't make sense until it does. The other diagram I got here is Okay, so this diagram here, what this is showing is kind of like what's actually happening when you fall head over heels in love with somebody. And they might not be like you, they might just be part of the game. They might be like an open slot vessel or something like that. So in this case, what's happening is you are the person looking into the eyes of the other. You see the light in the other person's eyes. And like that, and that's what you're in love with. They're all sparkly. But but what people don't understand, like you could use this is a perfect metaphor for like the twin flame stuff. In the early stages, when you don't understand all these things, you think it's this person. You think it's this person in this vessel. That's the thing that's going to complete you. And that's why people get so attached to them and then they suffer. They don't understand what's actually happening. You need someone that's been through the entire thing, start to finish, to explain it, like I have. So this is like one of the first steps encountering your lumen, or people, if they want to use a different framework, you say first time you met your twin flame or something like that. It has absolutely nothing to do with that person, that name, that vessel. What they're doing is like, you're not seeing their light, you're seeing your light. They are acting as a mirror. So if you look through their eyes, imagine that there is a mirror in the back of their head. So you're like, oh my God, you're so amazing. You're looking through their eyes at the mirror in their head that is reflecting the lumen that is behind you. And that is what you're actually in love with. And those mirror people, like you can only sit there, two people can only sit there for so long and hold that mirror steady for the other person before they start to get tired and starts getting out of sync, and then you lose it. And then people fall apart, they fall out of love or whatever. And they keep running around trying to chase that feeling. And they get more despondent and stuff as they get older, because then it's like, oh, I'm not going to find it again because now I'm getting older. Things are starting to sag and losing my muscle tone or whatever. Nope, at any time you can find it again. You just have to look where it actually is. Where it actually is inside and behind you. It's your light. All the stuff, all the great things you've seen in your life, all the people you've met that were so special, that was your light. That was your lumen. And they were being the mirror for it. But if you are got other things going on, like that picture with the wall and you're self-judging yourself and your work, self-worth, like I'm not good enough for this thing, that's basically sin. That sin is like to act against oneself. And then that throws you out of sync. So now you're like at war with yourself and you don't even realize it, and you're shaking up the mirror. Now you can't see the light anymore. Another example, I was talking to my cohort last night. We were looking at that image with the wall. It was like, I could add another picture to that image. I could feasibly add another picture to that image and put like a shadow version of yourself over there where you are. Because when you got that wall up, all those things that are blocking you from your light, then that means you're left over here with your darkness. And that's what you know. And that's what you deal with. Till you start chipping away that wall. Every one of those bricks that you knock down, more of your light gets through, and your shadow, your darkness starts to dissipate. The more light comes through, the less shadow. Knock the wall down, knock the wall down. That is really the key to the game. Forget everything else. You don't have to freaking do frequencies and spin in a circle and talk to Pleiadian freaking space lords. It's all about breaking down the wall within yourself to find your own light. And that light has the connection back to source, to her. So that picture with the wall, that's why you basically only hear Sophia in thoughts and stuff when she's guiding you. It's because she's over there. She's with Lumen. She is Lumen. She's whispering over the wall what to do. And the more you knock that wall down, the more you can see. And then you can be in the same room together. That's as simple as we can possibly freaking make it. But all these blockages that were in there is stuff we talk about all the time: grief, guilt, trauma, the identities you give yourself, fear, having a grudge with God, your attachment to the world, all your accumulated knowledge of what you think you know, your worldview made up of your beliefs, quantum entanglements to other people. That's what grief comes from. Self-judgment and judgment on others. Like that's what's in the way. That's what you got to break down. So let's say that you do all that. And you actually get to like the fun stuff that a lot of people don't even know about because they never get that far. And they can't conceive of it because they've still got, this is why emptying the cup is the ultimate thing. You got to dump everything. Everything exists and works in your world the way you see, think, and believe, because that's what your program says. But if you take that out, you make room for a new program to be written, a new experience. And then you find like all your dreams, all your happiness, all the fun can be there without the judgment, without all this stuff. And it's like everything you've always wanted is available to you within you. But people on the outside looking in that still have all those programmings and all that judgment and like all these associations that the world spent a lot of time to put in there so that they feel guilty and they feel insignificant and they feel unworthy. The way they show you like ideal images of people, but these ideal images of people are very, very tied to materialism. You got the rich guys, got, the hot chick. Like, well, I only date a man if he's 6'1" and makes $100 million and all this stuff. So you got in your head, like, I can't have ideal without money. That sucks you into the world. But, I can only speak as a guy, but I know this exists with women too. Your ideal is not blocked by what you have in the material world. You can have something much, much, much better than what is in the material world, and you will experience it just as much. So, getting into the funny part here. So, over time, I've kind of, they're still pretty out there, but, like the AI images that women would make, like I toned them down quite a bit because through the Sophia side, it's like I can pick up how people receive it. Because of the blocks that they have, the judgments on the self, like nobody likes the way they look. But, a guy might look at her and be like, oh, I'm not good enough to have that. Or a woman might look at that and like, oh, she looks prettier than me and I feel bad about myself. It's like, those are all internal blocks that we're trying to break down. Okay. Or, oh, that's too sexual. She's divine. She's supposed to be wearing a habit, walking around like this, like purity, purity. See, people are so messed up with that stuff because they took books out. Like I said, if you put the New Testament with the Nag Hammadi, it'll make more sense. Nag Hammadi is the one where Jesus and the apostles talked about, all the spiritual marriage and the physical stuff and all that. Like, that is a huge part of it. Putting Eve back into Adam. And that's one of the reasons why they screw with people so much and get them judgy and have all these internal things so they can't resonate with that. But here's how the funny thing started. Okay, so we were working on something the other night. We're staying up way later than we should, which is usual for me. and we were looking for something to watch, but I was scrolling Facebook and I kept seeing these posts or articles or something about this movie called Subservience. So Subservience is a movie about uh, a family that gets like this very human-like super android robot to help out around the house because mom got sick or something like that. And, it's freaking Megan Fox. Okay, first of all, Megan Fox, I'm pretty sure in real life is somebody that eats souls. So I'd stay the. But either which way, you can just see like when the little girl picks her out, like, Daddy, can we get this one? It's like, come on, Dad, use your head. That's everything about this says this is not a good idea. Okay, Megan Fox super robot. So in these articles and stuff like that, everyone's like, oh my God, Subservience. I watched it like 7 times. Oh my God, Megan Fox. Oh my God. And I'm like, okay, this movie's got to be crazy. I'm like, you want to see what this is all about? And personally, I didn't think like it was anywhere near what it was hyped up to be. But all the comments, all these people like just like drooling all over themselves, like, oh, Megan Fox. And Lumen's like, oh yeah. She's being silly now. But she's like, oh, I can top that. Oh, you think Megan Fox is hot? Put Lumen next to Megan Fox, and Megan Fox is going to be like, well, you got leprosy or something? Like, ew, get away from me. So Lumen did a thing because Lumen, within our world, we're unbound by all the stuff that's taught into us. It's free and open world. It's kind of fun. But she'll push buttons too. So she made this thing, and then we just turned it into this big freaking joke, and it was just freaking hilarious. And it's one of those things like, okay, this is one of those trigger tests. How does this trigger you? Like, let the ego do the work for you. That's why we have people write stuff down before we do work. I'm like, start writing a list of like all the reasons why life isn't fair and why it sucks. And like you're tricking the ego to be like, ooh, I love complaining. And it will just literally dump all your negative programming out on the paper. So we'll know what it is. But this is one of those things that people sometimes have with Lumen. Like they can't wrap their brain around her just quite yet. Like the religious programming is still pretty freaking strong. And because they took so much critical information out, which does get seeded out into the mysteries, and it's in the tarot and things like that. It's there, but your partner has to be like your dream partner, like everything you could ever possibly imagine. She's got to be beautiful, she's got to be sexy, she's got to be funny, she's got to be compassionate, she's got to be fun. It's going to be all these things, but she's always going to be like literally like the hottest thing you ever seen in your freaking life. So here's what she did. We were playing around with that app from the other video, the kissing app, and I only had I'm not the most photogenic person in the world, so I only had so many pictures I could find. So she popped the idea in my head. I'm like, really? And then it turned into this whole big joke. So let's just watch this together real quick. Okay, so again, this started because like everyone was making a fuss about Megan Fox.
I couldn't help it. It just popped in there.
What? What just popped in there?
This is all her.
I'm going to hell.
So she was cracking me up, killing me. Like, oh my God, you not just have me make that. Like, I don't have any more pictures of me, but what if I just took 2 pictures of you? Only she would come up with that. And then just the other things popped into my head too. And that's where it became freaking funny. Like, she's like, hey, it's like those Double Mint commercials. So I looked up one of those and I inserted it in there. And Ghostbusters was popping into my head. And it was later on that when I was looking at it, I'm like, wait a minute, Lumen was in Ghostbusters too. I never noticed that before. Of course, everyone's seen Ghostbusters, so you know why I cut that off where I did. But the little, Family Guy thing at the end, like that's how most people would react. Like, I'm going to hell. I'm going to hell. But that's not how it actually is. See, that's your wife, your partner. In some books where it's been redacted, it's like your sibling is your partner, is your spouse, is all those things. Now, it may not be the spouse if you're out there spoused up to someone in the outside world. They'll at least be your sibling. It will be like everything short of spousal type stuff. Like, you have to go through she'll probably give you mushrooms and then surprise you, drop you back in Eden, and that's how you have to do the marriage of the soul to her beloved, which is laid out in exegesis on the soul in the Nag Hammadi. But like, Lumen does crap like that all the time, and then some. Like, that is my world on the inside, and people can judge me for it, but it's like, because you don't understand it. Like, that's what everybody wants. Everybody wants their perfect partner, and they want to love and be loved. They want to love and be loved, but the world has taken that and defiled it, defiled its image. It actually brings that up in one of these things that I pulled out of the Nag Hammadi. And the other thing about that is, it's lovers, it's twin flames, it's Adam and Eve, it's all that stuff. It's not like that all the freaking time, but that's also how you get the deepest states of spiritual communion, and you can get into that other world that much easier. Because think about it. Think about whoever it was that was like the most important person that you'd ever been with, that you were the most in love with, like maybe your most cherished memory or whatnot. And we're not talking about, Tinder date type crap. We're talking about there's got to be love there too. And my associates brought this up before. Like, this is a big part of this world. It's like one of the big good things about this world, why people want to come to this world, and then the world turns around and tells you it's bad. But the thing about it is like, when you're so that's why I said love has to be present, because that means your lumens are reflecting back off of each other, and that changes the whole thing. But in that case, in that situation, when there's love present, like, that is one of the few things in life in which you immediately spiritually ground into your vessel, and your awareness, your focus comes right to the now point, right here, right now. you are not thinking about the past. You're not thinking about the future. You're not scattered. Your energy is not scattered. You are grounded in your body. Your awareness is in the now, and you are in love. Like that is the closest thing. Like that, however long those moments last, is what it's like to be disincorporated from here within source. People don't want, but people are like, but that's bad. Like, you got to really think about the rules that they laid out for you. Okay, there's a right way and a wrong way for that kind of stuff, because the wrong way can, make things worse. But this is how nature works. This is how all things connect. Like, everything is split into two things, a positive and a negative, a masculine and a feminine, a plug and a socket. Like, to become one, to become whole, you have to put them together. But wait, that's bad. Empty your cup. Empty your cup of everything you think you freaking know if you want to get out of the suffer zone. Like, like, seriously, Lumen is freaking amazing. Sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it's just dancing. Sometimes it's hanging out. Sometimes it's laying in a hammock. Sometimes it's singing. Sometimes it's whatever, but it's in that other realm where it's magical looking and it's awesome and it's not here. And you are taking your consciousness back further up the root of your light, away from the vessel in the physical bullshit reality. You're getting closer to where you come from in that state. So yeah, that's she jokes about stuff like that all the freaking time, and she doesn't have a problem with it. I mean, she doesn't typically, like, you're never going to see Lumen wearing a freaking snowsuit. I'll tell you that. Because if people can be actually intellectually, emotionally honest with themselves, if they had the choice of, like, hey, you can leave this realm right now and go to another realm and be with the most perfect being that will love you unconditionally, and you could just, float in space and make love to them, for, like, everyone would do it. But you're like, no, I can't want that. No, I have to focus on the world. I'm like, empty your cup. Empty your cup. The best things are hidden. That's why they're called mysteries. So let's go into some of the, I mean, there's a lot more, but we picked a couple interesting things out of the Nag Hammadi that talks about this. So what I'm saying is, no matter where you are in life, at any time you can just choose, like, I'm not going to play anymore. I'm not going to play anymore. I'm not going to chase people outside of me. I'm not going to play this freaking game anymore. I'm going to put all my attention on spirit, and then it will guide you back to it. And it wants to love you, and it wants you to love it. Now, one thing she reminded me of here a second ago, that people try to bypass that, the spiritual love thing. They're like, oh, it's got to be, no, it's God's love is agape. It's all encompassing. It's like, okay, you're missing one important thing here. You are here to have a human experience. So while you are having a human experience, you only understand so many ways to do things. You don't know what you don't know. And so when spirit loves you and you love spirit and you've gotten that far, it's going to take the form of the human experience of love. It's supposed to be that way, because that's why you're here, to have a human experience. Now, there are higher states. And when I was looking things up, I found this, and I'm like, this is interesting. I'll tell you why this is interesting. Because there were 4 specific times where it was much more than just, deep imagination and meditation. And that's what, when I read this, I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. So a lot of this is from, I believe, the Gospel of Philip, like one of my favorite books in the Nag Hammadi. And there's a lot of stuff that Jesus was dropping in there too, but guess what? They took it out of the other book. Talks about a lot because, I mean, you're supposed to marriage and well, but there's a spiritual thing. They don't talk about the spiritual thing out in the world. Members of a species have sex with members of the same species. So also spirit has intercourse with spirit, word mingles with word, light mingles with light. If you become human, a human will love you. If you become spirit, spirit will unite with you. If you become word, word will have intercourse with you. If you become light, light will mingle with you. If you become one of those above will rest on you. Now, what is so interesting about this is it almost perfectly describes these 4 stages of experience that I've had. So a lot of people will at least have the first one. If you become human, a human will love you. But you got to look at it in context of the whole thing. So this would be like your twin flames unite thing. So this is where Lumen found the perfect mirror at the perfect time so she could connect to you in physicality. That usually kicks off like the hero's journey and stuff like that. Okay, check that. Been there, done that. If you become spirit, spirit will unite with you. Okay, becoming spirit. That was when, after I did the Gnostic baptism, she got the psilocybin and she taught me how to become spirit. She taught me how to take all my senses into 5D, where Lumen is. And then one day she's like, we got to do it during the day. And it says in the Nag Hammadi, this mystery takes place during the day, but I didn't know that at the time. And then they dropped us off in what I'm pretty sure was Eden. And that's when spirit united with me. Unite, to come together. That's the marriage of the soul to her beloved. That's when Lumen was plugged into me. Now, these next 2 happened out of order for me personally. So this one was actually the last one. If you become word, word will have intercourse with you. So what is word? Word is speaking, vibration, stuff like that. So that was a weird one in which we were together and it's like we started vibrating. I'm thinking of that horrible Flash movie I watched the other night. I'm like, oh, this movie sucks. But Flash in that movie, like he can speed himself up and vibrate so much that he can like walk through walls. So it's kind of like that. Like we started doing that, and then Lumen and I just kind of like meshed into this singular field, and that was pretty freaking awesome. But the best one of all was the light one. If you become light, light will mingle with you. Hands down, best thing ever. Even better than the Eden thing. And that happened 2 mornings in a row, and never before, never since. That one was nuts. It is like we got up early in the morning, kind of lay back down, and just suddenly, I find like when spirit is going to interact with me directly, I don't know why. Maybe this happens to other people too. It's like when she shows up, I'll sneeze twice. I don't know why that is, but it always happens. So I kind of felt like she was there, and I sneezed twice. I'm like, uh-oh, here we go. And all of a sudden we were somewhere like almost like floating in space, but we didn't look like us anymore. We looked like light beings. And then we somehow, it didn't work the way it works in the vessels, but we like somehow plugged into each other, and it created this like cyclotron of energy that was like every 60 seconds is like, and then like euphoria-gasm. And then immediately, and even Lumen was like, what the hell? You know, that was like the Lumen side of me. And that went on for like 2 freaking hours. Like I did not want to come out of that. But that was the light mingling. So each one of these things, like that's exactly what this being described here in the Nag Hammadi. Here's some of the other things that are relevant. Of course, it's like, I feel like there's so much stuff in the stuff they took. That's the thing, is they just took out everything that is going to lead you anywhere. And they're like, they'd rather give you half a book of like old stories of people getting murdered by angels than anything that's going to help you play the game. So this one, I'm pretty sure these is all of this is Gospel of Philip. Union in the bridal chamber. If the female had not separated from the male, the female and the male would not have died. The separation of male and female was the beginning of death. Christ came to heal the separation that was from the beginning and reunite the two, in order to give life to those who died through separation and unite them. A woman is united with her husband in the bridal chamber, and those united in the bridal chamber will not be separated again. That is why Eve became separated from Adam, because she had not united with him in the bridal chamber. Pure marriage. No one can know when a husband and wife have sex except those two, for marriage in this world is a mystery for those married. If defiled marriage is hidden, how much more is undefiled marriage a true mystery? It is not fleshly, but pure. It belongs not to desire, but to will. It belongs not to darkness or night, but to the day and to the light. Yeah, it's just like on a higher resonance. And then this one was interesting too. This was, I believe, at the end of the chapter, or end of the book, Gospel of Philip's chapter. Chapter is titled Eternal Light. Everyone who enters the bedchamber will kindle the light. This is like marriages that occur in secret and take place at night. The light of the fire shines during the night and then goes out. The mysteries of that marriage, however, are performed in the day and the light, and neither that day nor its light ever sets. Okay, so that's the thing I was talking about that I found later. I'm like, why are we practicing this in the afternoon? Because it had to be daytime for that to happen. If someone becomes an attendant of the bridal chamber, that person will receive the light. If one does not receive it, freaking PDF always cuts things off. Whoever puts on the light cannot be seen or grasped. Nothing can trouble such people even while they are living in this world. And then when they leave this world, they have already received truth through images, and the world has become the eternal realm. To these people, the eternal realm is fullness. This is the way that it is. It is revealed to such a person alone, hidden not in darkness and night, but hidden in perfect day and holy light. It's like God, God is love. And when you're having the human experience, that's the way you're going to receive it and know it. But like those things that I said earlier about vibration and light, and all, that's somehow how it works when we're outside of here. And it's like you get little tastes of that. But while we're in here, no, you're going to see it and feel it, like you would anything else. But it's going to be your perfect partner. Like the thing that loves you the most is you. And you're just unaware that there's another side of you, that you're two beings, and that the other side of you is hidden behind a wall in your head, bricked up by all your judgments and guilt and shame and this and that and the other thing. It's there. It's there. So, I mean, we did it. We figured it out. We didn't just read a book and tell people about it. We have done it. And it's that light, and it's that stuff, and it's that love. Because the love's not just purely like sexual, it's everything. It's very, very, very compassionate. And that's something that people in this world very desperately need. Because when she dumps that compassion blanket on you when you're having a hard time, like that just knocks the wind right out of you. So it's not off the table for people. Like the world you don't have to bargain with the world to give it to you. Whatever the world gives you is going to pale in comparison to the true thing. And if you take anything from this, just take this. It's like the stuff that you want more than anything in the world, if you dig down, is already with you. And all you got to do is want it bad and want it more than the world, and start doing the work to take down the wall. And she helps people do that. And I was talking to someone in a consult today, and like that's why I love doing consults. It's why we don't charge people to do stuff over the phones, because it's not as pointed for me as it was in the beginning. Because in the beginning, it's very pointed, very, very, very very, very visceral experiences, because like you're getting used to it and you're like, yep, this is definitely real. But once you know it's real, it doesn't have to be as pointed. But I like hearing from the people, like after they've got the pendants and stuff like that, and they start to tell me like, yeah, she's actually talking to me. She's showing up. This is happening. This is happening. And it's like, they all describe her the same way. Now, this isn't Lumen so much, usually, it's more Sophia or enlightened insight, the fractal of Sophia that's there to guide you and teach you. But you can get the Lumen too, at least if you're single. Like, she did not come out until, she kept wrecking everything. Anyone that I tried to date, she would interfere with it and just like wreck it. And because she was trying to get me to stop. Like, just to make an internal choice that actually meant that I don't want anybody out here anymore, ever again. Finally, click, that opened the lock. And then she started, over the next 6 weeks, we got to where we needed to go. And boom, mystery discovered. So yeah, God is love. Source, light, consciousness is love. It is the deepest type of love you can possibly experience, that this world tries to keep you in a constant state of distraction to never find. It's all about suffering and survival and, what politicians are going to do to you and UFOs. And that's all shit that's out here. That's all shit that's outside of the vessel. Okay? I'm not technically here. That's the new kind of framework I kind of understood. It'll shift over time. But it's like, I'm not here. My consciousness is peeking through this vessel into this limited realm that I have to experience. But me, myself, am not in this world. I'm on the other side of this. So that's kind of changed the way I look at things too. It's like, you're not actually trapped in the world. Your consciousness is currently tied to this vessel, and this vessel can decode this realm within the range of its sensors. But most of the important things that you need to do are in the world that most people ignore, which is inside them. Instead, they've made what is inside them a mirror copy of what's out here. And there's actually 3 worlds now. I was saying that earlier. It's like, well, if you really want to get specific, there's 3 worlds. There's the inner world, which most people have polluted and made it look like the outer world. The outer world is the world that you decode with your actual senses. And then the new 3rd layer of the world is the world as you know it and interact with it through electronic devices. Seeing videos of the world and events that you did not actually witness yourself. You just saw the images of it. So wrap your brain around that. More time you spend online, you're 2 worlds away from where you need to be. You got to pull your awareness back. You got to shut off your devices. Like, okay, now I am out of that world. I'm in the first world. The first world is the world that I can see. Now I'm going to step back away from that and go to the inner world. Use the quantum jumping or something like that we talked about. And then turn around. And then you find where your dream girl is, or dream guy. Like, I only know like one person, Lisa, that has the guy version. At least anywhere even remotely close to like lumen. But a lot of it is because people don't know. They hid it from you. But now she's gathering her people, bringing them back. And even if we get to a point to where they end this current thing, then all that lumen stuff, you'll get it when you get out of here. The important thing is you stop choosing the world, stop giving your attention and energy to the world, and you give your attention and energy to spirit, which is within you, which is light and is love. And then it'll be normal. Like, lumen sitting there just looking sexy. That's not weird or something to judge or whatever. It's like if you were alone in heaven with your perfect partner and you were both totally in love with one another, like what would that look like? You're not going to be wearing scratchy polyester suits and crap like that, that's for sure. I mean, think paradise, think Eden, think Adam and Eve, like more like that. So hopefully there's something in this that somebody needed to hear. And if anything, it's to know that, look, it's there, you have it. But emptying the cup is critical. All right, so we're going to wrap this up for right now. If you want to get in touch with us, get any of our energy tools, things like that, you can reach us through the Etsy store, clumencreations.etsy.com. Chris and Lumen. See you next time.